Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff,
And I'm Linda.
and welcome to the Paranormal Pub Table, where we talk about the paranormal at a pub table. Talking a little bit about this past weekend, we had quite an adventure. We got to go up to snowy Pennsylvania,
Yes, we certainly did. Yeah.
and it was a fun time. I love these trips where you're gone for the weekend, different state, different place,
Mm-hmm.
different things to look at, different places to stop along the way. And that's really what Gas Grub and Ghost is all about. It's
Yes.
basically what we want to do with that is basically show what the travel is, show what unique places there are, what there is to eat and to stop at along the way, and
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah.
what we do because people don't realize a lot of times, they'll see the investigations, and
Mm-hmm.
the last one we posted was Spirits in Scranton, and it's maybe a 30-40 minute video of an investigation.
Right.
But to do this video, it really took up a whole weekend.
Yeah.
So we like to just kind of put that travel vlog out there. So definitely check out Gas Grub and Ghost.
Yes.
But we went up to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and we looked into one thing we did while we were there. We looked into a cold case,
Mm-hmm.
as we have a few videos out under Paranormal Shakedown, which involves cold cases
Yeah.
and trying to look for answers in them. But we went out to this house and we talked about literally on like the episode before last of the Paranormal Pub Table, we talked about random spirits and why
Yes.
people see these random spirits throughout their house. And really check out this investigation because that's what it was about. It
Right.
was
All
kind
these
of random
random spirits.
spirits.
Yes.
Yep. And they were drawn to this guy. They were coming through his house, everything from a firefighter to a young woman to an older woman.
Mm-hmm.
We got some possible responses through the spirit box there that kind of confirmed some of the things he was saying.
Right.
But overall, this case, spirits in Scranton, what are your thoughts on this?
I think it was a fascinating investigation. We do have a lot of people that contact us and they believe that they are empaths or psychics or that they have some sort of medium abilities and they seem to attract these random spirits. That seems to be kind of the norm for these sort of people. Is that, and you've described it before in a really good way, saying that they're like a beacon in the darkness, like a beacon of light, and if there are spirits around that are trying to communicate with the living or trying to get a message across, perhaps they did not even cross over to the other side or go toward the light because they still have some sort of unfinished business or message to get across. They're going to wander in the darkness until they find someone who is able to see them or able to at least acknowledge that they exist. And then they're going to follow that person around until they get their message across. And that seems to be the case with a lot of these, is that you attract these random spirits, and spirits are known to wander. I've heard of spirits wandering as far as a mile from where they were actually, the body was actually killed, to be able to haunt somebody's home. And they can wander around. They will go from house to house in a certain area. They seem to wander around until they can find somebody, like this gentleman whose house we investigated this past weekend. And then it's almost like, hey, I'm just going to stick around here for a little while and visit this guy until he acknowledges that I'm here and is able to find some way to hear what I have to say.
Right, right. Now, wandering spirits is an interesting thing
Mm-hmm.
because I've talked to a medium, and the medium said that spirits can wander quite a few miles from where they were killed. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that they're always drawn back to that location.
Right.
Not necessarily just where they were killed, but where they died. So they're always drawn back to that location. So the time that they can spend away from there is apparently limited. It's basically like taking your cell phone off the charger.
Right.
You got a little
Right.
bit of battery power, and then, you know what I
Yes.
mean? You got to plug it in again the next night.
Right.
So that's the way she described it. Now,
Mm.
this particular gentleman whose house we were at, he mentioned interacting with spirits from all over the world, and they were coming through to him, and one of them was from Italy.
Oh, yes.
So it's an
Yeah.
interesting thought. Why are spirits and how are spirits coming through to some people from a completely different part of the world?
Well, I mean, I know we were in a town. Scranton is one of those towns that is full of Italians. And it may not necessarily be that this particular spirit that was Italian was actually existing or living in Italy at the exact time that he was communicating with them. On another possibility is that this is not actually a spirit that he was communicating with. And you and I have talked about this before, that the possibility of time sort of folding back on itself. I think there was a movie called Peggy Sue Got Married where they described it perfectly. It was like time is like shaped like a taco. It's not a tortilla, it's a taco. When you fold it, and it just, there's a point where the two edges can just barely touch. And at that point, there's a sharing of information, of data. And it could be something as simple as a voice that comes through to you. You may be sitting in your living room thinking that you're communicating with a spirit, or that there's some spirit there. This may not be a spirit at all. It may just simply be that there's a point of contact between one point on the timeline and another point on the timeline where you're able to hear voices from the past, or where they're able to hear your voice.
So if you wake up dead, let's just say you specifically.
You don't wake
right.
up dead.
Let's say you wake up
You're dead.
right? So you wake up and you realize, oh, there's my body. For some reason,
Right.
I am out of it. What is the first thing you're going to do?
That's hard to say. I mean, I would say that the first thing I would do was probably hang out and try to figure out how I died.
Right,
if that
right.
wasn't absolutely apparent, from the very beginning.
But at some point after that, after you realize that you've died and you perhaps followed yourself to the grave,
Right.
would you try to see exactly how far you could go?
I believe I would. I would definitely go into the neighbor's house. Just because I'm a little bit nosy by nature.
Right.
I think I would like to go into the neighbor's house and see exactly what they're doing, like
Yeah.
what they do in their downtime, just to be able to get a glimpse of life in another home.
Absolutely.
in some
That's
of the
not
neighbors'
creepy
homes.
by any
Yeah.
means, So
Yeah.
first thing I'd do if I was a spirit is I'd go sit on the neighbor's couch and watch them.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. But I wonder, talking about wandering spirits, how far they can wander.
Right.
Because you have some cases, like Abraham Lincoln is one of them, where
Right.
his spirit has been seen all over the place. It's been seen in Pennsylvania, it's been seen in Virginia, been seen in Washington, D.C.
Right. And there is an explanation for that as well. I mean, some of these sightings of Abraham Lincoln could be residual.
They could
They're
be.
purely residual.
Absolutely.
Other ones may be an actual intelligent haunting, like in the sense of the White House. I know that they said at one time somebody experienced Abraham Lincoln's ghost in the Lincoln bedroom. And at this point, he turned around and looked at them.
So once that spirit, for those of you that don't know, once that spirit acknowledges you,
Right.
it's not residual. Residual is basically a vision, an apparition with no spirit, no soul, just replaying itself.
Yes.
That's the
exactly.
theory. It's not an actual ghost that can interact with you. It's just an image kind of frozen in time.
That's right.
So
That's
if the
right.
spirit looks at you and acknowledges you, that means it has consciousness.
Yes. It sees you standing there.
Right,
Yeah. It's
right.
more than just energy.
So with Abraham Lincoln, some of them could be residual, some of them could be intelligent, or maybe just one of them is intelligent.
So he may not be wandering quite as far as people think he's wandering in his spirit state.
Okay, so that kind of, it's a good theory for that.
Yes.
But there are people that have spiritual attachments that say, I have the spirit of my grandfather or somebody close that follows me around. Mm-hmm. And this spirit follows them around everywhere they go, whether they go out to the West Coast, whether they go to a different country, this spirit seems to follow them around.
Right.
So I wonder in this case and in some of these cases where spirits follow them around, you talk about plugging that cell phone into the charger at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that depends on where your charger is. If your charger's by your bedside and you got to take your phone and plug it in there at night, that's where your phone returns to every night, by your
Right.
bedside. So for these spirits that they always end up going back to the place where they died, perhaps that's their charger. That's where they need to go to regenerate.
Right.
But someone that is here following someone around, that basically is their power source. That's why they're here. They're not here because they can't get over their death or because they have some kind of a message that needs to get across.
Yeah.
They're here because they're concerned for a loved one. So they're following this loved one around from place to place, and they don't really have to return to the place that they died or to the place where their body is,
Right.
because that person is basically their power source.
It could be. That's what feeds them with the energy that
Right,
they need.
right.
Yes.
And we think about different kinds of spirits and them wandering about and where they wander and how far they wander. Does how they die impact where they wander, if they wander, and how far they wander? And I'll use two examples from this past weekend's investigations. One would be the firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a man who allegedly died putting out a fire. Now, we don't know if this is the same one, but there was a firefighter who perished in a fire, and perhaps it's his spirit that's there.
Right.
But just for the sake of argument, let's say that you have the spirit of a firefighter who died in a fire trying to save lives. You have the spirit of a man who committed suicide, and you have the spirit of a man who was murdered, not even aware that somebody was sneaking up on him.
Right.
And these all tie into our cases from this weekend. They all do. The suicide one is questionable, but we're going to use it for the sake of argument.
Right.
How these people died, I wonder if that affects how far they can wander and their reason for wandering. So, for example, the man who was murdered, if his spirit is there, is he wandering about searching for the men that killed him?
Right.
Is he wandering about not even aware that he's passed?
Yeah, that could be. That could be.
And how far is this man going to wander?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a very good and very valid question. It's one of those that, we always seek to answer through investigating the paranormal, but one that the answer may always elude us. We may not know what the answer to the question is, but it's fascinating hearing these stories where so many various spirits, they either stay where put or they wander so far.
Right.
And it's really kind of amazing to hear that they can wander so far. Yeah, like I say, that's one of those questions that it's really
And you'd
hard
have to ask
answer.
why they wander.
Yeah,
The person
why?
that committed suicide, where would they wander and why?
Yes, exactly.
What are
Yeah.
some possibilities as to why they would wander, and would they go back to their house? Would they have regret?
Right. Could be.
If you realize that you're in spiritual form and you think, oh no, that's not the end, do you hold on to some form of a regret that, I wish I wasn't stuck in this state right now?
Right.
Where do you go? Is that one that perhaps stays closer to the scene of the death? And then the firefighter or police officer, anybody who dies in the line of duty,
Right.
are they still wandering about their area, perhaps thinking, I need to do my duty still? Because we
Yes.
got an interesting response through the spirit box, and it said, I died for them, my people.
Yes.
And we speculated that this could very well be this firefighter that died for the people in his community,
Right.
his people. And if that's the case, is his spirit still wandering about that community, trying to take
protect
care of the
them
people?
Yes.
And in this case, you got to say, okay, if that is the firefighter that said I died for them, he is still alive. I'm not sorry, he's not still alive, but he doesn't think that he's still alive.
Right.
Some spirits, they think they may not be aware that they've passed on.
That's true, yes. And especially in that case where it may be somebody who dies in the line of duty and they die suddenly and unexpectedly, and they may not realize at all that they've passed on.
Right.
And that would give them good reason to stick around,
Right.
or even to try to wander back to their homes.
But this one said I died for them.
Right.
So if
He
that
knew he
was
was
him,
dead.
he
Yes.
knew. And does them knowing that they've passed away, does that change the game for them?
It very well could be. It may change their motivations. It may change their perspective on the world. It may change, everything. It really would, because instead of being stuck trying to do exactly what you've done in life and trying to carry out that, there may be other motivations that would arise, like, why did I die? Let me figure out why I died, what went wrong. Where is my family now? What are they doing without me? So it could change a lot.
Right. Now, what do you think would cause? Because it doesn't seem, at least if it was the case, it would seem that we'd get a lot more cases than we do. And we already get a lot of cases.
We do, yeah.
But it doesn't seem that everyone is still here as a spirit.
In what sense?
Like, it doesn't seem that everyone who died is still wandering around here as a ghost.
Right, absolutely.
Which makes me wonder, why do some wander around as a spirit and others seem to rest?
Well, I do have a theory on this. And of course, like I say, it's just a theory. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is absolutely true. But in investigating, we've kind of come up with ideas about the way the spirit world may work based upon the responses that we've gotten through Spirit Box, or, the interaction we've had with spirits, as limited as it may be. It seems to me that spirits often would stick behind and stay behind and not go toward the light or go toward, beyond the veil, wherever you might want to call it, because they have that unfinished business. It can be something like children that you're leaving behind, or a family member, a loved one that you need to look after. You feel so compelled to look after this person that even after you die, you say, you know what? No, I'm going to put off going to the light because I want to make sure that this person is taken care of. Or it could be that you have unfinished business or some sort of fear. I've heard the theory posed before that a lot of children's spirits, children often die because they're doing something in the household that they're not supposed to be doing. They're climbing a tree. They're doing something that's a little bit dangerous that their mother may or may not allow them to do.
Right.
And in passing away and doing so, they're afraid that their parents will be mad at them. They're afraid of being punished. And they feel like if they can stay where they're at, maybe they won't be punished. Which is kind of an interesting theory, like I say. Very interesting one. But fear. Some people are raised with the Christian idea that when you die, you face judgment from God. And if you die and you realize that you were not the optimal person, you were not the ideal person,
You may not want to face
you
that
may not
judgment.
want to face that
Right.
judgment, and you may feel that by staying behind, you're not going to face that.
Another one that gets me too with the wandering spirits are those that wander in lonely places. And these come a lot with urban legends, where you have that
Right.
haunted road where the lonely bride is seen wandering alongside of the road. You have this old abandoned house out in the middle of the woods that's
Yes.
filled with spirits. But the house, we could explain that. Perhaps
Right.
we could say it's where they lived, it's where they died, it's
Yeah.
their home. Maybe it doesn't look the same, it looks different to them. But you think about these haunted roads, and it's often a girl in a white dress. Are these stories that are just made up? In a lot of cases, yes. Can
Yes.
some of them be historically backed? Some of them, not all of them.
Right.
But to think that this spirit, right now, as we're sitting here in the middle of the night doing this podcast, somewhere out there, there's a haunted road that nobody's traveling down.
Yes.
And this spirit is still allegedly wandering about this road.
Right. And it's a very sad thing if you think about it.
Right.
That really kind of is sad that somebody would feel like they're motivated to stay on such a lonely, dark road. But it could be that there is some attachment or attraction to that specific location. Like you said, the point of, let's say, the point of impact, the point where your body is is dead and you're released from the body and you're now a spirit, that may be the point of what you say is like a charger for a cell phone. That may be the thing that they are rooted to and that they're linked to. And that may be the reason why they would wander the road like that.
So that location, that road, could very well be
Very well.
their
Yeah,
charging port.
absolutely.
So wandering spirits, it's a theory, of course. There are spirits around us at any given time. We never know when they're here. Some of us do. Some of us may just get some unexplained chills or see something
Right.
out of the corner of our eye.
Yes.
May not be something that we always see. It may just be a passing spirit. Why do they wander? What's the farthest they will wander to?
Right.
If anybody's had any experiences with that, we'd love to hear what you think.
Absolutely.
Now, one thing, I'm going to put it out there again, okay? Let's get into the White House. Let's get VAPI into the White House, okay? I'm starting this campaign, and it's going to start
yeah.
as just a campaign to, hey, let's get these guys in here to do a paranormal investigation because hopefully you trust us and would like to see what we get
Yeah.
at the White House, which is reportedly very haunted. And it's kind of
Yes.
on our bucket list.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the next campaign, if this one doesn't work, is going to be the one where I run for president,
Right.
which I'd rather not have to do. I don't want to have to take it that far.
Right.
But
you will.
I will if I have to.
He will.
I will if I have
Yeah.
to. But imagine an investigation of the White House. This is a place that, it's the seat of our president.
Right.
It's such the history.
Yes.
Every president
Yes.
that has lived there and what they have experienced and what their wives and kids have experienced.
Right.
We'd like to collect that. We'd like to get in there and see
Yeah.
if there's any evidence of this White House being haunted.
And that would be fascinating to think about because if you think about the way that would go, normally we don't have to pass background checks and things of that nature in order to get into an investigation. This
Right.
would be one of those places we would all have to pass a background check.
Right.
They would have security. They would have their Secret Service following us all the time. Which would be interesting in and of itself because some of these Secret Service guys, you could probably creep them out with some of the stuff that occurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
and sort
Maybe
of get
some of them have some of their own stories.
yeah,
too.
perhaps get them interacting a little bit. A lot of these guys are ex-Marines and, people that have actually experienced some paranormal activity beyond the White House or
Right.
previous to the White House. So it would be kind of cool to be tailed by Secret Service. There's nothing that we ever do an investigation that would cause any problems. But just to be able to investigate, I guess more of the living quarters, I guess seems to be the most haunted spot is the areas where these people sleep.
Right.
It's not necessarily like the Oval Office or anything of that nature, although there is one British soldier said to be from the War of 1812 that wanders the property itself, the land
Yes.
itself. But for the most part, it's things like Abraham Lincoln's ghost.
Yeah, and I think Abraham Lincoln's ghost has been seen in the Oval Office.
Yeah,
if I'm
he's
not
been seen
mistaken.
the most of the time that he's seen in Lincoln's bedroom, and that's actually the name of the room
Where he worked.
where he worked. He
Right.
didn't use it as a bedroom. He actually used it as an office. He didn't like to sleep there, but it was his working room. So in that particular era, in that time in the nation's history, you can imagine what kind of thoughts and what kind of stress he was under.
Yeah.
And what kind of emotions played out while he was in that room itself. It stands to reason that he would still be there in a sense.
And maybe he has a message that he wants to get across.
It could be.
Message from Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
So let the voices of the American people be heard. Let's get VAPI into the White House. If you have
Yes.
any questions for our question of the week,
Right, we'd
we're
love
going
to
to be
hear 'em.
looking at some viewer comments. We do look at the viewer comments. We don't always get a chance to respond to them all.
Yeah.
But we'd love to perhaps pick your question and maybe even have someone come on as a special guest, call in,
Yes.
and discuss your question with us and your thoughts on it.
Right.
We would love to do that.
Right.
If there's any personal stories that you would like us to share, definitely drop them in the comments or send us an email. If you go to our site, it's vaparanormal.com.
Yes.
You can contact us through there. You can send us emails. We look forward to hearing from you all.
We do. Yeah, we like the comments.
We love them.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for joining us for this edition of the Paranormal Pub Table. Until next time, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Linda.
And remember, there's much more to see in the dark.